Hello everyone. Alright, so we're going to do a basic algebra review here. I just wanted you to basically remember some simplistic numerator properties and algebraic stuff to simplify and do all the other things. Anyways, let's look at this. Okay, so let's start off with something simple. Can you evaluate something? In other words, can you find an answer, perform some basic PEMDAS, parentheses, those type of operations, order of operations? Can you substitute numbers into some variables and kind of go from there? Keep in mind, a variable is just a symbolic notation to say, like, for a number placeholder. Anyways, if I say a is equal to -2, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to 4.2, and here I have a minus 2b plus 3c, what would that equal? Well, I'll plug in the numbers in place of the variables, and then you can easily type that into a calculator and get 4.6. Here's another example, 2a plus b plus 3 squared. Notice again, I'm just plugging in the numbers in place of the variables and coming up with an answer. Same thing here, and I can show you how you can do this fraction part on the calculator a little bit easier. And basically it's just hit Control Divide, and then you could type in the top and the bottom and then just press Enter. But I'll make sure to take up time to try to show you all that tomorrow. Anyways, you can see here how I get the answer, plug it in, again, pop it into the calculator, and press Enter. Alright, so those are fairly easy, nothing too difficult. Now we can talk about the number system. This is basically what you've been studying. I mean, in a sense, all numbers follow into these groups, okay? You start off with the smallest little circle, which is the natural numbers, and the natural numbers basically tell, they're just our counting numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that type of thing. When you add a 0 to the natural numbers, the counting numbers, then you get whole numbers. So then it's 0 plus all the other numbers that were natural numbers. Integers basically add in the negatives. Rational adds in the fractions and decimals. Irrationals are the ones that can't be expressed as fractions or decimals. And so numbers like pi, square root of 2, any square roots that do not come out even. All of these are real numbers. And the reason why I bring this up is because later on you will get to study what are called imaginary numbers. But anyways, you can kind of see here are the symbolic notations for these. Technically for the R, or for the real, it should be a double line R. So I would take either this or this. I'm not exactly sure why, but the book kind of got rid of that double line, but there's more of a reason why that's there. Keep in mind that any number that is in, like, say, they work their way out. So something like this would work its way out. Now, let's look at how we can classify these. Okay, so here's some bullet points. I got a -23, a square root of 50, -4/9, negative square root of 49, and a 4. Okay, so what is -23? That's an integer, because it's a negative number. It's not a fraction or anything like that, it's just a negative number. So that means that's an integer. That's the symbolic notation for integer, just a z. Then if it's an integer, it's also a rational number, and it's a real number. So all of these would be real numbers. That goes back to this right here, that if it's a z, it's rational, it's a real. Okay, so the next one, square root of 50, the square root of 50 is not an even, like, it doesn't come out even. So since that would be a decimal answer, that means it would be irrational, because it would actually be a decimal answer that would go forever without changing. And it's a real number. -4/9, now you see a fraction, so that means it's a rational number, and it's a real number. -49 is a tricky one. That's the one where I'm trying to be a little tricky. That comes out even. That's the square root of 7, so that would be -7, which means then I can say it's an integer, it's a quotient, and it's a rational. I'm sorry. It's a rational and it's a real number. 4 is a natural number, so that means it's a natural, it's a whole, it's an integer, it's a rational, and it's real. So notice how it has a lot of different parts that it's a part of. Again, they work their way out. Something that should be simple. I might mention it on the test and stuff like that. Definitely on the quiz. Copy these properties down. You would need them. I would say pause me for so that you can get this down. But I'm gonna move on. Okay, so you can see the properties right there that you just copied down. So can you name the property? And the reason why I feel like this is important is because understanding what they are, what their names are, I think gives you a better understanding of like how to be able to work with them. Okay, so here I have 5 times 4 times 13 with the 4 and 13 in parentheses, but then I move the parentheses to the 5 and the 4. So I'm just changing basically the position of the parentheses. That is known as associative property. Okay, commutative would have moved the numbers around. Let's look at another example. Here I've got a 2, parentheses x plus 3, now I have 2x plus 6. Well, that's distributive. That's something you've worked with many times before. Next one, negative 7y plus 7y equals 0. What is that? Those are inverses because they're opposites and they kind of cancel each other out. So again, knowing what we do. Now normally when we work with solving equations, we deal with inverse operations, and maybe we'll do some distributive and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it for that. And then I want to make sure I cover additive inverse and multiplicative inverse. Here I need you can see additive inverse are basically just opposite signs. Positive 4, its inverse is negative 4. Negative 2.3, its inverse is 2.3. Multiplicative inverse is the reciprocal, so 4 would turn into a 1/4. And negative 2.3, you would have to realize, is 10 over 23. Not 10 over 23, 23 over 10. Because this is 3/10, so that's 23 over 10. Change it to a fraction. Okay, so the final thing I want to cover, and I guess I thought I had paused, but apparently I didn't, is just simplifying expressions. Y'all should know to combine like terms, use distributive properties, things like that. So like here, 8b plus 4b is 12b, negative 3c plus 9c is 6c. And you're not solving, you're just simplifying. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to distribute, and then I'm going to combine like terms. And that's pretty much it. So this covers, like I said, there's some very, very basic stuff that we should already know and that you should already be familiar with. I don't think any of this would be any problem, but that pretty much covers everything for today. If you have any questions, again, always feel free to ask, and I will be available. Thank you so much for your time. Y'all take care.